Hello, everybody. Gail Craft here from the Empowering Process podcast, and I have with me Noemi Beres. And she's here, and you'll correct me if I got your last name wrong. She's here to talk to us about resilience, to talk about how she was able to persevere and how certain milestones in her journey were crucial to helping her become who she is, an amazing artist and a strong proponent and supporter for those of you who want to connect on podcasts. Welcome, Noemi.
Thank you so much for having me today, Gail. It's an honor. And yes, you did pronounce my name correctly. So that's perfect.
So I do want to add a caveat to that because I'm so proud. Um, I come from the inner city of Boston, and if anyone has ever heard a Boston accent, especially from Dorchester, it's pretty thick. And it took me a very long time to consciously and purposefully change that accent. And part of that accent is we leave a lot of letters out, right? And so to say someone's name means I have to move my lips and jaw in a way that I was not raised to do it. So I'm so happy that I did not butcher yours.
Well done.
So let's talk first of all about um, some of your losses, right? Your father's loss, your grandmother's loss, um, at a time where you probably needed some support because you were also moving around a lot. And all of us go through losses in our life. And, it impacts us. It impacts how it gives us an opportunity to pivot and to change and to self-reflect. So, with that, let's talk about the artist in you and how that came out.
That's an interesting story, and thank you for asking the question. I guess I was always an artist in all my life since I was growing up. I was always an artistic type. I love painting. I love drawing, which I actually don't really enjoy anymore. I have to be honest. I have a new art form that I'm doing since 2012. But I always loved everything that has to do with art. And I was growing up like that, and my parents supported or in my artistic endeavors. I did ballet dancing and I loved singing and went to different clubs where I could practice jewelry making. So I was really into I was this artistic girl since I was growing up. But really, the collage making, I'm a mixed media collage artist and I make hand-sewn collages on canvas. That's my thing, that's my jam. But that really came to me when I was expecting my son, who is 12 years old, and so it was like something came to me. It was like it was such a beautiful and unique experience. And I was expecting him, and I sat down with my big belly at this little table, and it was kind of like a table that I could make collages, so I can make a mess on it. And I just started to glue pictures, buttons, different textiles on this cardboard box. But like I took, I just cut it out and I just started to make my very first collage. I still have that. And I used also words on it like home and different colors. And I guess I was nesting because I was a mom. So I was a mom to be. And it was a really, really interesting experience because that moment I decided I just want to make collages from now on. I'm not interested in anything else, just collages. So that's how it started 12 years ago. And since then, I'm making digital collages. I love making cut and paste collages when I just use scissors, a pair of scissors and glue and, any kind of paper I can get my hands on. And then during COVID, it's like with everything else happened during that time, I couldn't really buy any supply material because all the shops were closed, and this is not America. We didn't really have home delivery and no Amazon and nothing like that here. So I had to use what I got at home. So I was just basically go through my closets and everything, and I found a couple of old paintings and drawings, and not just mostly paintings on canvas that I didn't like. So I just started to repurpose them. So I started to sew things on the canvas because the glue doesn't really stick here in Cyprus because of the heat and humidity. So I needed to just, sew everything together. So step by step, I started to sew my memories together, my family memories together, the memories of my travels, my journeys in Europe and in different countries in Morocco. So I just started to doing things that again, so it just happened, another pivotal moment in my life. So I started to doing something completely different than I used to do. And I had this kind of sanctuary, and in every evening, I was sitting basically in my bed, listening to an audiobook or music or something, and while I was making these collages. And these collages really helped me to open up and start to deal with my grief that went on in my life. So it was really kind of a life-saving, quote unquote, experience for me to make these collages.
So I love how you say a life-saving experience, um, because I think for many of us who experience change and the need to be resilient, what is once considered a struggle turns out to be the perfect opportunity for us to discover who we are, right? To discover, our gift, to discover what is important to us. And the whole idea of collages, I have to say, I have a vision board-ish type of class that I do. Well, I do it like a woman's circle. We're in a circle, right? And it's done for only 3 months because I want it real and tangible and something that you can actually achieve. And I use different media, right? So we have glue because I think the smell of glue brings back memories for people, right? Or the
Right.
paste actually, right? And that process of pasting stuff on and threads and buttons and whatever.
Yeah.
So it's different than your typical cut out a picture and that's a collage. And then when we're done, the best way to achieve our dream is to let go of it. So we burn the board.
Okay.
Right. So we have a little ceremony and people don't have to. Some people they have to hang on to it, and that's
Mhm.
fine. That's fine. But in the releasing of that is where the magic happens.
Yeah.
It's just a miracle. I just love it so much. Um, and so you now you do this for entrepreneurs, right? To help people with their branding.
Yeah.
And you also, right? So you're really a Renaissance person. You do a lot of different things, right? And then you help people with podcasts. So let's talk about the content piece of it, what you do for small businesses and entrepreneurs to help them really express who they are from the inside out, not their 40-second elevator speech.
Yeah. Yes, I work with entrepreneurs, business owners, healers, coaches, you name it, from different countries, mainly from US, Canada, and UK. And the main focus is to help them to share their stories and reach their life through connections, share those stories and help them to being open and being vulnerable on podcast shows, because that's the most important part. Like, to be authentic and to be really open up during a show, because if you just wearing a mask and you just say what people want to hear or you think they want to hear, and that's not real. So you really have to open up. So that's how we help our clients to open up, share those stories, and help people to get out there and just be open about everything what they lived. Because if you just only have one person who listened to that show, that's already an achievement. So I think that's really important part of my job. It's not just organizing podcast interviews for someone, but also helping them to get out of their shell and share those amazing and beautiful stories, because we all have those. Some people say, no, I don't have a story to share. We all have a story to share. I mean,
For me, it's like, which one do you want?
exactly. So true. Absolutely. I agree.
Right? Um, the whole concept of authenticity, when I first started as an entrepreneur, I followed the pack, and I wasn't attracting my clients. I was attracting clients, but it didn't feel right for me. And so I discovered that being authentic and sharing myself, I say warts and all, out on social media, out on podcasts, allows people to resonate with who I am. And it's in that resonance that the right client comes,
Yeah.
right? So it's very easy for me to, and I use the word loosely, help clients because they first come already knowing who I am and already feeling comfortable
Mm.
with working with me. So that's I call it in dance getting into to first position, right? Where you like,
Yeah.
can I follow this lead, or do I trust this lead? And the lead is like, is she going to follow me? Right, right. You have that moment of that's already taken care of. And so how beautiful is that for people who are your tribe, right?
Yes.
Showing up. And so you had a death, and it's a cancer journey, which I just survived and went through. Um, and then, your father and then your grandmother passed away. So talk a little bit of what was going on during your life at that time, and what you had to overcome to discover just how resilient you really are.
Yes, unfortunately, there were too many deaths in my family since I was growing up. I was 6 when I lost my grandparents in the same year, in 3 months' time. So, and then when I was growing up, I lost my grandfather to cancer. That was like many years ago before my dad. And it runs with my family in my dad's part. And unfortunately, my my uncle died of cancer, and then finally my dad in 2017 was diagnosed with cancer, and it wasn't curable. I mean, he went through all the therapies that they tried, but yeah, it lasted for 2 years, and that was it. And actually, my dad passed away on my son's birthday,
Mm.
seventh birthday. So it's like when we celebrate his birthday from that time on, it was always my death anniversary as well. So it was a very long journey when you see this amazing man who was always my supporter, and I was his only child, and he was always there for me, and he just became helpless, and yeah, and he passed away. And then the same year, my dad's mother, my grandma, suffered an accident, and then she just passed away just before Christmas. And that was in the same year, 2019. So it was a horrible year for our family. And I'm an only child. We have a very, very small family. There's like only me and my mom, my son and my husband, basically. So it's not, I don't have a huge supporter group. I didn't do any therapy back then. So I was really alone with all that problem. And then you have different type of griefs in your life. And that was like one part when you lose very close family members. And also I lost a friend to cancer during COVID. So, and she was my closest friend in Cyprus. So it was kind of terrible. And then also there was a lot going on. And I also, another type of grief, you lost your business because of COVID, because it was a travel related business. So that stopped and just completely disappeared from one day to another. So there was a lot of losses, a lot of grief in my life in 2019, early 2020. And yeah, it wasn't an easy time. And that was the time when I turned to art, because I knew I need something, and I just figured that I felt it came to me. I need to do something that is safe, that helps me. Art is for me a kind of meditation form. So it just really helps me to wind down and just really being in my zone and enjoy the moment and in the flow, basically, when I do anything like that.
I love it. So my favorite observation this past year has been that creation happens in the space between. So music happens with the space between the notes, dance happens with the space between the steps. And for me, life and transformation happens in the space between the breaths, right? And so, talk to me a little bit about, because you said meditation and flow, and those are like my favorite words.
Mine too, yeah.
Right? Um, what what it's like being in flow, because for me, like I was in flow when I was in corporate. I was in flow and could get my team into flow, and I didn't even realize that I was doing it. When I look back, I can see, holy crap, I had it then, right? And it's the letting go and not controlling for me. So when you're doing your artwork and you're getting into the zone, if you will, what's that like?
It's beautiful. It's like you find your inner peace and calmness, and you don't think about anything else. You don't think about your family, your problems, what kind of war's happening everywhere in the world. And because it's a repetitive, monotone, it's a monotone action. So it really soothes down. Even I think it just calms you down, your heart rate goes down. So everything, like exactly, I feel the same way because I do meditation every morning, and it's exactly the same feeling when I meditate and when I'm making my collages. So it's beautiful, and it's kind of like pure joy that you can only experience when you. And I don't really do that. I don't really always reach that stage in meditation, but when I make art, I reach that kind of joy and just pure bliss when it's like, yes, I love this and I don't want to stop, and I just keep going and I don't want to stop this.
Right? And that energy, that joy. So I start my day off. Are you ready? Joy, 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 joy. What a great way to start the day, right? So I don't seriously go into meditation. It's like, okay, I want to feel good about the day. So, my little bounce up and down. And I imagine the little girl in me like swinging her legs like right now, she's swinging her legs right, when we talk, because for me, this whole experience that we call life is about that very thing, joy.
Yeah,
And what it means for you and what it means for me is different, but we were both trying to live our life that way, right?
right.
So how amazing. So you help clients get out of their shell and learn how to be vulnerable when it comes to their business. How does this change their life?
Business-wise, it's important to them because when we talk about it, it's still a long-term marketing strategy. So once you do it and you do these podcast interviews and rinse and repeat it consistently, persistently, so you will get there and you get those clients from these podcast interviews. The proof is in the pudding. I'm getting those clients as well because I'm getting on podcast shows. So it's a very great long-term marketing strategy. So it's a huge help for them. And luckily, we have those clients that stay with us since day one. We found them, we started to work with them, and they still with us, which is I think is pretty amazing in today's world when everything changing so quickly and everything is so fast paced. So for me, it really tells me that like they love working with us. And also I really found my tribe, and many of my clients are coming from that tribe. And that tribe it's a shout out to Bob Berg and the community, the Go Giver community. And those amazing peoples I got to know thanks to the Go Giver Success Alliance team. And Bob became my friend and my mentor, and all the amazing people I met through Bob Berg. It was just really, really life-changing. And then they got to know me, and we started to work together. So many people from the group, from our community, and we could vibe, and I could help them to find those shows that are really vibe with them. And they really
Right.
appreciated that because yeah, you can get on any kind of podcast shows, but the ones are the most important ones that really vibe with you. You vibe with the host, and it really helps you and your business unfold.
Oh,
So you have
absolutely.
shows.
Absolutely. So as you know, I have a pre-interview,
Yes.
right, before someone comes on as a guest. And the purpose is to see, I mean, can we even hold a conversation?
Yeah.
And and then, where's the story that really like resonates with me and resonate if it resonates with me, it resonates for my clients because my clients are the old me. Right? Let's be
Right.
honest, right? Um, and and I have turned people down. I have said, I know another podcast host that their podcast would, and I will introduce them, right? Because if you're not the right fit for me, I'm not going to have fun, and you're not going to have fun,
True. Yeah, very true.
right? And so it's all about getting that energy to go because I want the people who listen to my podcast to know that they're going to have an experience, right? And not a sales pitch,
Exactly.
right?
Because
And
it's
so
not. It's not.
it's not. So you do that, and then there's something else that you do, right? So you, like I said, you're like a Renaissance woman,
Nobody
right?
called me one, but now I got the title
Well,
from
that's
you.
someone who does a bunch of different things, right?
Yes,
So,
yes, I know
right,
it. It's a new
right,
title I can use from
right.
now.
Oh, so there you go. There's your LinkedIn profile for you, Renaissance woman, right? Um, And so let's get back to the resilience thing. So what's so you definitely had to change your business because of the changes that you went through. What about yourself? I know for me, especially the last year, when I was given the gift of walking down the path of cancer,
Mhm.
um, I leaned into what's the lessons, what's the gift, what can I learn from this, how can I grow from this, how do I self heal, who do I turn to, right? Um, and giving up that if I don't survive this, then it's my time to go, but I still want the lesson and the gift while I'm here, right? Um, because if someone, like you said, one person can learn from this experience, then the ripple starts,
Yeah.
right? So, what are some of the profound changes that you think you've gone through because of the not so much fun things that we have to go through?
Especially my father's death reminded me like how short life is. And also when I was basically getting ready for giving birth to my son, one of my closest friend who was like 32 years old back then just died of cancer. And so like she was struggling with that and I was giving birth and it's like, oh my gosh, like life is so precious. And she was the same age as me as giving birth and she was facing death. So it's like since then I think it's not even like my father's death, but her death really opened up my eyes and like, yes, you have to really appreciate every day and being more grateful and more thankful in life because you never know when it will end. And it's just so important just to appreciate each other and say thank you and being grateful for each other in our lives. And then what happened with my dad, that even reflected again, and that was like a really profound experience to think about it like, yes, and it's true again. And I just appreciate every day. And like, I know it's very fashionable to practice gratitude and writing gratitude journal and everything nowadays. Like, it's a big business. It's a huge marketing business right now, being grateful, quote unquote. But I really started, at an early stage of my life. I was, in my early 30s when I started it, and I didn't read much about it, just a few things online, and it really aligned with me. And like, yeah, I want to do this. I think it's important in my life. So yeah, I started writing about it in a book and a journal, and and then later I knew, oh, that's a gratitude journal. Okay, so I did that, and and I was doing these things that I supposed to do now because it's very fashionable to do. But I've been doing this for a while. I didn't know back then. It's like it just helped me. I knew somehow that like, yes, it helps me, and art helps me, and music helps me, and drumming on my frame drum and drumming on my hang, it helps me to heal. And I didn't have a coach or anything back then. I just knew, like on a subconscious level, that yes, I need all those things to help me to heal and appreciate life more and every day more and more.
And I love that you said all those things. Um, I belong to a breast cancer survival community. And this particular one is not about, oh, woe is me, which is why I'm in that community. All of the others that I've tried are like, we're not victims here. We have a journey to travel. And one of the things that I posted in that community, I talked about all of the things that I pulled out, right, to get through. I did affirmations, I did, visualizations, I did, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then I said, I pulled out all of the stops in order to navigate through blah. And one of the responses was, I love the fact that you mentioned you had to use all of your tools
Yeah.
because the one and done is a lie, right? Because I don't know what's going to resonate with me that day, right? So when it comes to gratitude, so I wrote down gratitude, forgiveness, um, and then all of the tools. When it comes to gratitude, I feel it almost all the time now. I'm grateful for the breath I can take, right? I'm grateful for, and I'm going to say this out loud, God walking with me and being in my heart. I'm grateful for my ability to heal people on a heart and soul level. I'm grateful for the challenges I'm given in order for me to grow. Right. I'm great. And I am truly grateful. But when it comes to forgiveness, I no longer feel the need to forgive. I spent a lot of time, and that is really someplace where folks have got to start
Yeah.
because I no longer feel blame. And so if I'm not blaming you or me, then I don't have to forgive you or me because the blame is not there. Right. And it's so freeing. So talk to me about the release and the freeness that you experience when you finally apply some of these tools and the lessons that you've learned. How life changed because of that.
Yes, I love this question. I love your questions. They're really deep and like thought-provoking. Actually, I'm reading a book right now. It's Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. And this is
Yeah.
the first time I'm reading it. And just so powerful. And it really aligns with my life because I'm kind of that person who always wants to do everything and think about the future and dwelling about the past. And I told myself, no, I have to stop doing this because I can't live my life really if I'm always concentrating on what's happening next, and I can't really enjoy the moment. And yes, we talk about that's also a very fashionable topic, like enjoy the moment and being happy and grateful now. But yeah, I'm just really realized that like our thoughts are running like 1,000 miles every day, every moment, and mine too, obviously. And so I really needed the space just to somehow calm down myself and being present, like being a mom or being present as an artist, being present as an entrepreneur, and not just focusing on the next one, and just getting somewhere in life and in business. So just appreciating those moments, like, the cats are playing outside and I love watching them, or swimming in the sea and feeling this salty, balmy water on my skin, and just experience that just now, right there when you are there, and the sun on your skin, and all those moments that are so, so important, but we just forgot to forget about those because we just spend so much time in front of our computers on Zoom calls and so on so many other things that are actually not so important. At the end, when you say it's like, yeah, what was important, like swimming in the sea, watching my son growing up, or watching I love cats, I'm a cat person, so I love watching them playing outside. And so what was the important? I think that's really freeing to reach that stage. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's important to be successful in your business and get to there, like get to 6 figure, 7 figure, whatever figure you're aiming for. But like being present in the now is so much more liberating and so much more important than anything else in the world.
You know, um, yeah, when I talk about prosperity, I am not referring to money,
Yeah.
though that's a part of it. If I am worried about the roof over my head and the food on the table, then my now is very small, right? And full of resistance,
Yeah.
right? And so I have to get to the place where that is not a concern, where I can be free enough. So I totally understand that. Um, but to be busy for busy's sake, and I can honestly say, as a young entrepreneur, I was busy for busy's sake. I felt I was doing well if I had no time on my calendar. I was doing well if I was running from meeting to meeting. I was doing well, if I couldn't schedule you for 3 months. Well, now I can't schedule you for 3 months because I block time. No,
Yeah.
right. I'm not, I don't have clients after a certain day or a certain time, right? In order to give myself that space between the breaths,
Yeah.
right? To
Right.
connect and hold these kinds of conversations, right? And experience. So when you were talking, what you were talking about, the word experience, 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 that's what we're here for. We're not here to make money. Money is actually just a recent thing. We're here to experience each other and growth, right? And so in that experience, like just a conversation with you right now, I've just elevated because I've felt and experienced some of your experience sharing. And that's what you're doing with your clients. When people are allowing themselves to be vulnerable and authentic, they allow to share their stories and someone else can grow from it. What can be more special than that?
Yeah, and you learn so much. I mean, even if you're just listening to podcast interviews, you're a guest or you're a host, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I learned so much. I think I learned more from podcast interviews, to be honest with you, Gail, than at school or at university. So it's so much more. Yeah, there are good and bad podcasts out there, so you have to believe everything what they say on podcasts either. But 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 there are so many great people out there and so many amazing stories that will really help you to grow. And yeah, it's amazing. It's such a new tool. I know that people started doing, podcasts 15, 20 years ago even, but it wasn't a big thing. But since COVID, it's the next big thing, I think, in in marketing and in our world as well.
Yeah, my first aired podcast was April of 2021, right? I planned on it in 2020 and I practiced, get this, I did Facebook Lives, and the way I did them was as soon as I got out of bed, sometimes I look like hell. Whatever came to my mind, I didn't try to filter it or explain it. I went live for under 7 minutes and talked about it. And I would get comments like, Gail, this was really thought provoking. You need to have a light. Gail, this was really amazing. You need a better camera. Gail, what's going on with your microphone? Right,
Constructive criticism.
right. That's fine. Right. And that now, so all of that equipment that I bought, I don't use now. I bought the studio lights and I don't use them now. I have this, big microphone. I don't use that now. Right. I created like a sound room. I'm in my kitchen right now. Right. 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 Because I felt I didn't need to hang on to those trappings anymore. I needed them because I believed that I did. But that's what happens when you start to become authentic, is the trappings fall away. And the sound is just as good using this little funky mic,
Yeah,
using my
it sounds great. Yep.
right, right, and the computer camera, right, not the big hunky thing that I had, right, and having the open space and the natural light in my kitchen versus a studio where I have to have all the phony light. So, but it's a process, and I think that is what's so important and really beautiful about your story is demonstrating that it is a process. It started when you were 32, going, oh my gosh, life is so precious. And then event after event alchemized that for you. And this expression through your art, go back to when you were a child, guys, right? What did you love doing? I loved dancing. Do you know that I started dancing seriously in my 50s and I started competing by the time I was 55? And I competed in swing, West Coast swing at the US Open, which was my
Wow.
dream. Yes, yes. Right. Am I good? I'm okay. I'm never going to win against the 18-year-olds. Sorry. It's not going to happen. But the joy, the fun, the laughter, and that energy and that creativity is a form of creation, right? What floats your boat? And then do it. And then to be able to do it, because I became a teacher, I was teaching it and make money at it, and then watch someone grow because of your teaching. How sweet is that?
I
And
love
that's
it.
right, right. And so um, let's wrap this up with talking a little bit about, you touched on your clients, the type, how they come to you.
Yeah.
Um, I get to see transformation, of course, at a soul level and life changing. You're working with people's business, but as you do one thing is how you do everything, right? As people's business change, let's talk a little bit about the business changing and then what they see in their personal life and in themselves.
Yeah, and that's another great question. Yeah, I love working with people who are starting out in podcast guesting and not pros or not the famous ones. So, and I love working with people like 50 plus, 60 plus, and they really trust me and trust my knowledge compared to people in their 20s and 30s, which is really interesting. So what I notice is like they have more patience in business. So they know that this is a long-term game and nothing will happen overnight, because today's generation, Gen Z, everything, the problem is that like, it's everything we get like in 2 minutes tomorrow and we'll be successful, but it's not happening. So I love working with people, and I work with people over 70, and they are just amazing. And we started to have this conversation and mock interviews to help them to get on the shows because they never did that before. One of my clients, he was a teacher and an educator, and also he came out at age 52 or something like that. And then he had his own family and got married, and so he had an amazing life. And I just really helped him to build up his business. And he's an author, so I also helped him to promote his book. And it was just so amazing to see that he had confidence, obviously self-confidence, but self-confidence on being a podcast guest wasn't like a huge thing for him. So he started with me, and then he just went on and on this podcast, and he opened up and started to share his story more openly, like he's gay, and he being proud of being gay and telling that story on gay podcasts, on author podcasts. So that was just amazing thing to see. He just started to fly, and it was beautiful, and at that age. And I'm not saying there's like nothing wrong with that, and it's just so amazing to see that it's not only for the 30-year-olds and not for the 20s and not for the 40s, but it doesn't matter how old you are, you can always start podcast guesting. And yes, you can promote your business, and yes, you can grow your business with it and get out there and meet these people. And I think podcast guesting is an amazing way of networking with other people worldwide, globally, and that's what we do right now too. So yeah, and it's just so beautiful to see that they can do that. From obviously it doesn't happen overnight. They had to practice. They went through a series of interviews, good ones, bad ones. I'm not saying the quality of the interviews, but you're not always the same, and maybe you don't produce the same quality every single time. But after, I guess, like 12, 15, 20 interviews, you're just getting so much better, and it will help you to grow as a person, and it will also help your business to grow.
Yes, and I love the word networking. Um, it's really interesting because when I started out, I do have I have a planning side to me. So I wrote out a business plan. Why am I doing this? Who's my customer? What's the story that I want to be telling, right? In order for me to say, well, then who would my guest be, right? And I struggled finding guests at first,
Mm.
right? Um, And so, I reached out to other coaches that I know, um, and then I started creating themes per month and started looking for people who would share those themes. For instance, like one month was all about sexual abuse. Another month was all about addiction, right? So who was willing to talk about the fact that grandpa did this, right? And I found them. But when I started doing that and having those conversations, then it flipped and people were starting to come to me. Like I've been trying to stop my podcast this year, and the universe keeps giving me amazing guests. I'm like, until you stop, I'm going to keep going, right? Right. So it's like, okay, because the networking for me, it's meeting amazing people,
Yeah.
sharing their amazing story. Because if, like we said earlier, if one person gets something from it, then it's absolutely worth every second. Right. And so with that, Noemi, how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about what you do?
They can visit our website, which is podcastconnections, plural, .co, not com. And you can always find me on LinkedIn. If you type my name in, Noemi Beres, you will find me with the little microphone sign next to my name. So you can get in touch with me and we can have a conversation.
Fantastic. And do let her know that you heard about her here. I know I don't just accept anyone's invitation. I have to know, how do you know me? Right? Because otherwise, I'm going to end up blocking you because you're selling to me. And thank you, everybody, for listening to me again. This is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast. If this resonated with you, give us a thumbs up. If you have a question, put it in the comments. We'll get back to you. If you know someone who could benefit from this, please do share it out. And as always, please do subscribe so that you know when the next episode is available. Thank you so much for your time. Naomi, thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.